welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. I am so excited to have Sedruola Maruska on my show today. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Lori. It's so nice to be here.
Let's jump right in like we always do. We're going to just jump right into the cold water. What were the values and beliefs that you were raised with as you were growing up that contributed to who you've become?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Um, well, I was raised Christian. I was raised as a Seventh-day Adventist, and um, I think that I think a lot of those values kind of shaped who I am today. But I also think that I have walked away from some of those
Mm-hmm.
because I've kind of maybe grown out of them. Um, as a Seventh day Adventist, you don't wear uh, jewelry, and I pierced my ears. I wear jewelry. Uh, I was very much a good girl, which meant that, you make sure that everybody is okay before you make sure that you're okay. And now I'm kind of working to make sure that I am okay as well as everybody else is
Mm-hmm.
okay, and not putting myself last, putting myself in a position where I'm okay because I know that if I'm okay, then I can help other people be okay.
Yeah.
Um, I think also it was very rule centric, very dogmatic, so to speak. And I think I'm a lot more liberal than that
Mm.
now. I think that I'm, I the ways that my son speaks about his friends and the different friends that he has was never my reality. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized that some of the kids that I'd gone to school with were
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQIA, that were part of the LGBTQ community. Because we never talked about that, that
Right,
was
right.
weird or that was strange or.
Was that
So
did they were they kind of hiding it, or were you just not seeing it?
I think it was both.
Yeah.
I think they were hiding it because I went to a private academy
Mm-hmm.
that was Seventh Day Adventist,
Okay.
and I think that they didn't feel that they could be who they were
Mm-hmm.
based on what we learned, right? Based on the the values
Yeah.
that the church put on us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think that it took saying, you know what, I need to be who I am, move out of that, for them to become to be fully who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and for me to also look at them and go, hey, I love you. I still love you. I accept you. I mean, that's who you are,
Yeah.
and you've always been that person. Just not knowing that one part does not make you any different,
Right.
right?
Right.
um so so yeah, I think there were a lot of rules and a lot of boxing in that I think now I've kind of burst from. And so because I've done that, my kids don't get that box.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are probably they're much freer with the way that they speak, the things that they know, and just in relaying who they are than I think I was
Yeah, I
back
think a
then.
lot of our kids, I don't have kids myself, but the kids who are being raised by our generation are
Yeah,
so much more open in their ideas, in the way they speak. I see what my friends are talking to their kids about, and I'm
yeah,
just so much in awe of how much more um, like open and more adult conversations they're having with their teenagers, even with their younger kids. Like it's just so
yeah,
much, um, just more healthy.
yeah. And I think that maybe we're more aware of how smart kids really are, and how they pick up on things even when you don't say anything.
Yeah.
Even when you're trying to hold back, they sense that you're holding back something. There's something that's not being said. They're so much more intuitive than we are as adults, because of course we've grown up and we kind of get jaded, but they're just tuned in,
Right.
and they're just more, they're more aware of what's happening.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole reason my program is needed, is to like help people get back to tapping into their intuition, right? Because we get it like taken out of us as we grow up in society. It's like, no, don't listen to your intuition. Listen to what your rational brain is telling you, and that's not necessarily
Right.
the best way to go. All right. So my next question for you is: was there something specific that happened that opened your eyes, or that caused you to leave behind those views and beliefs?
I don't know if it was one specific thing. I can tell you that when I was diagnosed with cancer in 2017, it really gave me pause. It really made me look at my life, go back and look at the whole, and to see where I might have derailed myself. Because I think for a long time I was just going along. I was just doing the default, living in default, just kind of doing the next easy thing. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, a question that I asked myself was, are you leaving the legacy that you want to leave behind? And the answer was no, because I looked and I said, no, I'm not doing anything that I think matters, except for maybe raising my kids.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing anything that I think matters. And so I had to really take a look at where did that change? Where did that go wrong? And when I did look back, I realized that right around the time that I started seeing someone is where a lot of things changed. I started seeing a married man. At first, I didn't know he was married. He lied. And then when I found out, of course, it was late into, and it was hard.
Yeah. Now the relationship was already established.
Yeah. And I remember thinking that was around the time that I cut off all my hair. That was around the time that I pierced my ears. And subsequently, I got pregnant. And when I got pregnant, I was going to keep the baby. But at 19 weeks, I went into preterm labor and lay in the hospital for 2 weeks trying to, what happened, my amniotic sac started to hang because my cervix started to open. And so we were trying to get the amniotic sac to pull back so that the doctor could go in and do a cerclage, which is to put a stitch in to close up the cervix until the baby was viable.
Oh, wow.
And I lay in the hospital for 2 weeks, and that didn't work out. My water broke, and I lost the baby.
Oh, wow.
And I think to myself that in that moment, I think so many things played a part. There was the guilt, there was the shame, there was a bit of embarrassment, and just the determination not to do it wrong again. And so at that point, I think that's when I began the default march. And when I say that, people are like, oh, I feel that people might think that I didn't live a full life. I was living a full life. I just was not living it intentionally. I was just going with the next easy thing.
Right.
What would work.
Like so many of us do, everything was fine, right? That's
Yes.
why we have this show.
Yes.
Everything was fine. And
was
then
all
you
fine.
had kind of this wake-up call. Actually, you had a couple of wake-up calls.
Yeah. And then I got diagnosed, and that was my ultimate wake up. that was the one that said, really, this could have been it. You could have said you have cancer. We did the scans and it's like, oh my gosh, it's everywhere. We can't do anything for you. It could have been that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that. And so at that moment I said, well, this is my chance to change it, not to be fine anymore, but to be intentional with the things that I do, be intentional with the things that I choose, be intentional with my time, be intentional with the people that I have around me, just being intentional with everything, being intentional with my children, how I interact with them, what I share with them, how I allow them to show up in space in this world, and just being very aware of all of those things. And that was that point there where I chose not to use the phrase when people say, how are you? And say, oh, I'm so busy. That was the time that I said, that's not going to happen.
Right. Because what does that even mean?
What is that?
Okay, you're busy. We're all busy. We're busy living.
We're all busy. But I think what happens is busy is a status word. It's, if you're busy, that means you're important. If you're busy, that means that you're getting things done. When in all actuality, when we say we're busy, we're just really, most of the time, just moving our bodies. We're just doing the piddly things. We're doing things that don't actually matter. We're doing things that we're not really intentional about, but we just feel that we need to do them. And so therefore, oh my gosh, now I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And that's where I really learned to not do that and to really be intentional about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So there's very little now that I do without intention. And that's not to say that every moment of my life is like mapped out and I'm like, this has to be, but I have a lot more downtime, but when I am working, I'm very intentional about what goals I'm going for, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and what it is that I want to do. And it's more freeing. It's a more freeing way to live. Yeah. Because you know why you're doing the things you're doing. Plus, you build in time to not do anything. If I want to take a nap, I go, well, I want to take a nap. That's what my body is telling me. That's what I'm feeling. I'm going to take a nap. I'm not feeling as though I can't do that because I have to. Yeah. I don't have to.
And when you are spending time working, you are working. And when you're spending time with your family, you're spending time with your family. When you're spending time with yourself, you're with yourself. We were just having this conversation earlier today. I was in a breakout session, and we were talking exactly about this, about, people talk about work-life balance, and I don't really subscribe to that term of balance. I think it's much more of an integration, especially for entrepreneurs. And somebody was saying that he feels like when he's working, he should be with his family, and with his family, he should be working. And so we were talking exactly about this. Okay, so if you are spending, let's say, 5 hours working, then you put all of your focus into those 5 hours and walk away and go spend time with your family, feeling satisfied that you did what you could, and now you can be present over here. So you're present in all of the things. That sounds like you've kind of mastered that.
Yes.
It's very cool.
Yes. You're present in all of the things. So when I can't remember the last time that I was hanging out with my daughter and I was thinking about work. It just not a thing. Yeah. It's because I'm very clear about the times that I work now, the boundaries that I have, and I don't respond to emails after 5. Most of the time. Some things get through, but most of the time I don't respond because that's a boundary that I want people to understand and respect. I'm not going to respond to your emails if it's on the weekend. Yeah. I just don't do that, because if I'm saying that I want to have this time with my family or to do the things that I need to do, then I have to protect that time. If I'm saying that I want to do that, but then I'm constantly checking my email or my text messages or everything, and I'm responding, and then I'm going back, and then I'm responding, then I'm not creating the boundaries for myself, and therefore no one else is going to create those boundaries for me. As long as they can reach me, that they're going to do that.
Absolutely.
But
We teach people how to treat us.
how
And right? We set the boundaries. When we set the boundaries, we have to respect those boundaries ourselves. Like,
ourselves.
right? You can't expect them to respect your boundaries and not email you if every time they email you, and even if it's after 5 o'clock, you respond. Now you're teaching them that those boundaries don't mean anything.
Yep, exactly. So I don't do that. And it works really well, because even if I do get an email on the weekend, and even if I do happen to look at it, I don't respond.
Mm-hmm.
So now people on the other end go, gosh, whenever I email her on the weekend or in the eve, I don't ever get a response. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll just hold off and just email her in the morning.
Yeah.
Monday morning or something, and I'll get a response then, I'm pretty sure.
Right, right. She will respond, just
Yeah.
not outside of her boundary
That's
time.
right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, so I got to go back and ask this question because it's hanging in my head.
Yeah.
What happened with the guy?
No one's ever asked that question. I walked away.
After,
I walked away. After I lost the baby, I went home. So I was living in Atlanta. I went home, came home to Massachusetts, and still in my mind, I hadn't completely let go. And so I was like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to recover from this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to go back
Mm-hmm.
to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did.
Mm.
I just, it was done.
Yeah.
And, I don't think I've ever said this out loud. I think I've only said it to a few people that I know very closely. But, when I realized the situation that I was in, I was putting it out to the universe. I was praying that something help me get out of this situation.
Mm.
And when I got pregnant, I knew that I was going to keep the baby. And when I lost the baby, I honestly believe it's because she had done her job.
Mm.
She had come to save me from this situation, and that was her whole purpose. And
Yeah.
so she was done.
How long did it take you to get to that point to see that? Because, I mean,
I saw it right
you
away.
did. Okay.
I did. I saw it right away. Yeah, it's it's very strange how some things can be so clear to you. When I was diagnosed with cancer, the same day that I was given the diagnosis, I called my sister, because I had to go get a blood test done, and I was waiting to get the blood test done, and I called my sister to tell her what happened. But in that same conversation, I also said to her, I said, it didn't come to kill me. It came to teach me something. And so I just have to be open to the lesson. And so it's always, when you look at it and you know in the moment certain things, but you don't really think about them heavily. But then you look back and you go, well, why did I know that? Like, how did I
Yeah.
know that? How did I realize that that was the thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, but I felt it right away.
Do you have a practice, like, obviously I'm always talking about meditation, but meditation isn't the only practice that helps you get in touch with your inner truth. What did you have a practice, or do you have a practice that has helped you get in touch, stay in touch? Like, there's a reason that you got that message. Was it something that you'd been practicing up until then, or like, how did you
Yeah.
develop that connection?
Well, I was I was always someone who prayed all the time. And I never believed that you had to be on your knees or you had to be doing some special movements or anything to pray. I was always praying all the time, because I always thought that it was just a conversation, that I needed to just have a conversation
Yeah.
with a higher power. And so I would do that all the time. I grew up in the church praying, even though I didn't believe the way that they did it was the way. I just did it my way. And so
You
that
still
meant
believed
that
in the
there was
higher power
always a
part of it.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, so there was always a conversation. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I kind of doubled down and I started meditating and praying. I started just doing that on a regular basis, and I have not stopped. This and so there have been times where I've fallen off, and then other time, and then I've gotten back into it. And my goal this year is to meditate every day. And so far I'm on track.
I was just going to ask, how are you doing with that? Okay.
Yeah, so far I'm on track.
Awesome.
Yeah, and because it's intentional, because I know and I understand. What I understand is the correlation between stress and cancer.
Yes.
What I understand is the correlation between my mindset and what happens to my body. And so I spend a lot of time simply allowing myself to not be stressed. And because of the work that I do, I have to put in extra boundaries for that, right? Because I'm an equity and inclusion consultant. And so I'm always in the thick of things. I'm always thinking about equity. I'm always thinking about the ways that people are not being treated fairly and how can that be better. And people are not being listened to. People are not being valued. How can that be better? And so because of that, and because that can be a very emotionally taxing thing,
Yes.
I have the boundaries. I have extra boundaries, right? I have 3 days in the week where I do all this outside facing work. I do podcasts, I do my podcast, I have meetings, I do all the things. But then the other 2 days, the Mondays and the Fridays, I don't do outside. I'm inside. Because then I can say, what do I need today? What do I need to do? Or what do I just need myself today? Because today I can do it.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Yeah. And so that's, so that's how I'm set up right now.
That makes sense from an organizational standpoint as well. Because, and I do the same. Mondays, I typically do not do any outside calls because I can just stay focused on doing the work. When people talk about being so distracted and frazzled and unfocused, and it's because they're jumping from one thing to another. When you block your time, and not just your time during the day, but your days that way, you can be much more productive and intentional, as you say, in what you're doing. Because you're not, I'm doing some marketing, now I'm on a phone call, now I'm fixing something else.
I think people don't realize how long it takes you to actually get back to focus when you get unfocused. So if you're working on something and you're focused, and then you get the phone call, now you have to refocus to the phone call. When you get back, it takes about, what was it, like 20 minutes or so?
Is it 20? I was going to say 12, but it may be 20.
It's
a significant amount of time.
It's a significant amount of time before you can actually get back into the zone or the focus of what you were doing. So imagine that's happening every half hour. Right. You're getting nothing done. Yeah. You're really getting nothing done. But you're busy.
Right. You're busy. There you go.
You're busy.
I want to go back to your meditation practice. So 2 things. One, people ask me all the time, like, well, when's the best time to meditate? And I have a response to that, but I'm curious if you have found a best time. Like, what is your personal do you do it in the morning before you get into your day? Do you do it in the middle of the day when you need to reset? What do you do?
Yeah, for me, I found that right when I wake up in the morning is the best time.
Yeah.
So, right now, what I'm doing, so I use Insight Timer.
Oh, my
I
favorite.
use
Me too.
Insight Timer. Yeah.
Yes. And I recommend it to everybody.
And so right now, I actually do 2 guided meditations. Well, it's not guided. So the first one is a healing sound. And so I spend 9 minutes listening, allowing my body to absorb a healing sound, right? Because remember, I still am a cancer patient, right? Whether I'm in remission or not. And then the second one that I do will be something that's guided. So right now I'm going through meditation where it's about mindfulness, right? So I go through the meditation for my mindfulness. And then once I do that, I'm good. My next steps is I usually journal, and then I'll read for half an hour, and that's my morning routine. So I wake up, I don't get up and get right into the day.
Yeah.
So it allows me that, okay, I'm easing myself into the day. But if I feel really anxious about doing something, I will do the meditation, and then I'll be okay. I'll be like, you know what, it's okay.
At least
but it's
you do
intentional.
the meditation. Yeah.
Yes. I will do the meditation. That I will do for sure.
Yeah. What time do you wake up typically?
Between 6 and 7.
Okay. All right.
Sometimes 5.
Okay.
Between 5 and 6. But mostly between 6 and 7.
Okay. All right. My next question about the meditation is, are you teaching this to your children?
I'm trying.
Okay.
I had my son download it to his phone. I said, you need to do this. Try to. He's gonna be 16. He's not really up on it yet.
Okay.
He was going through some things, and I was like, honey, here, do this meditation. Try to do this. Just quiet your mind. Just, He was like, okay, Mom, okay. I think he did it 2 days, and then he didn't do it. So,
okay. But he's got an introduction.
And my daughter, I haven't done her yet. Yes. So, they know this exists.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm just curious again, because going back to the first part of our conversation about how our generation is teaching our kids differently than the way we were taught.
Yeah.
I was just curious about that. When we talked before the show, we had a conversation. I just want to touch on this about allowing people to help you. And yeah. Where and your journey on allowing yourself to be taken care of.
Yeah, again, right? You get cancer, and now all of a sudden you've got all these things that you've got to do, and you really have to take that downtime, but you still have a family. And one of the things that I did intentionally while I was going through chemo was that every time I went for a chemo treatment, I had someone different take me. I could drive myself. Honestly, I could drive myself to go and to come back. But I had someone take me so that they could help me, and they could allow me, and I would take the time on the way home to sleep if I needed to, and to just take care of me. And that was their way of being able to take care of me. Also, when I was going through the treatments, during the treatment, my treatments lasted for hours, 3-4 hours sometimes, 2, yeah. And so having that time with that person was also really important.
Yeah, a gift
because
for
then you
both
get a
of
chance to just talk.
Yeah,
you get a chance to just talk. It's good for your psyche. It's good for your, you feel like you're supported. It's really good for your emotional well-being, which is really important through the healing process.
For sure.
So I was very intentional about that. And then when the community, friends in the community said, hey, we would like to do a meal train. I was like, yes, and thank you. I think one of the things that we do, and I've spoken about this before, is we're so used to being a nice society. And I don't really like the word nice. I really prefer people to be kind. But what niceness causes us to do is when someone tries to be kind to us, when someone is offering something in kindness, niceness says, oh, no, 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 thank you very much, but no. And my thing is, no, in order for this to perpetuate itself, there has to be a give and take, right? So there has to be, when someone is offering, I can say, yes, thank you, so that when I'm offering to someone else, they in turn can say, yes, and thank you. And it kind of perpetuates in that way. But when we're trying to be nice and we're trying to put on this false sense of I don't really need it, we block that flow. Right? We're saying no, 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 I'm good, I'm fine, I'm fine. Well, and it's probably not true.
Right. Right.
We're blocking the flow because the flow needs a give and take.
Yes.
Right? There's no such thing as giving, and then never taking from anyone. That is that's unfair, and it doesn't allow for the flow that needs to happen. Yeah. Because you make people feel bad.
Right. I like that you said it's unfair. It's also unnatural. Because when you think about in nature, right, when we breathe in and out. When there are waves coming in at the beach, they're coming in and going out. This is the flow of nature, and allowing people to help you so that you can also, accept it goes both ways, like you just said.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. Beautiful. I have so enjoyed this conversation. I'm so happy you came on to the show, Sadie.
Thank you.
Before we go,
enjoyed it too.
The last question is, so when you talked about listening to this healing frequency music, but when you need an extra boost of energy and you want to get hyped up, build your enthusiasm, what's the song that you listen to?
Oh gosh, I have a few songs. The first one that comes to mind is Waka Waka by Shakira. Oh yeah,
good one. You cannot sit still to that.
Yeah, I love that one. There's I Feel Better When I'm Dancing by Megan Trainor. I love oh gosh, there are just so many.
All right, we'll go with those two. All right, I'm going to put a link to those in the show notes. And also awesome. In the show notes, I want to put a link to how people can get in touch with you if they want to continue this conversation. So where should we direct them?
Absolutely. The easiest way, because it's easy to remember, is Diversity Dish, which is the name of my podcast, which is diversitydish.com, the name of my website. And there are all the links for connecting with me on Instagram. I'm Sedruola on Instagram, Sedruola Maruska on LinkedIn, Sedruola Maruska on Facebook. So I tell people all the time, if you just put Sedruola into your search engine, it's me. Nobody else.
That's the beauty of having an unusual name, is that you get to claim it, and it can come up everywhere. Yeah, it's great. Everywhere. Great for search engine optimization.
Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a 4-letter word.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.